Hi, it's Vanessa Love. All right, so I wanted to kind of get back to basics and talk a little bit about two separate things: careers in art therapy and how I became interested in art therapy and how I came to know art therapy. Okay, so careers in art therapy. Any place that you can think of that has ever had a therapist probably needs or has had an art therapist. Um, Art therapists have had so many different types of jobs. And I know that before I got into the field, a lot of people told me that I would only work with autistic children and that I would only work in mental hospitals. And yes, I have worked within a mental hospital, a short-term behavioral health facility. I'm not going to be so mean. And I've also worked with autistic children. It's not my specialty. It's not my strength. But definitely I have that experience. What I tell, what you might know from other videos is that, what I tell people is if there's an LMFT or not necessarily an LCSW because there's laws about that in Connecticut, and I think grant specifics for social workers, but like LPCs, if there's some agency that is looking to expand and they have a position open to, an LMFT or an LPC or whatnot, I tell our therapists to apply because you'll be able to be an asset to those companies and you'll be able to really, just write in your cover letter, hey, I wanted to apply for this job because I feel I can be an asset. Not only do I want the experience of, or I have the experience of working with blah, blah, blah population, but I also have this added, benefit for you and your clients and your advertising, basically, to say that you have this special, person who can do things other than talk therapy. And, you really have to sell yourself up, and sometimes you just have to knock on doors and say, hey, art therapy exists. This is amazing. You're going to really want me as your art therapist, and you're going to want an art therapist on your team. And here's why. And, just really sell up that, there might be people who are resistant to therapy who would benefit. There might be a teen out there, if you work with teens, who would really benefit from it. There might be this other person or this person who will benefit from your strengths. I know some of the other art therapists have been very upset because, the art therapy positions, I guess we're apparently supposed to be there for all of us, but they're not. What happens is that, what I've noticed anyway, in the small Connecticut state, is that the places that have art therapists, promote, so they'll usually have a group of art therapists. If they're going to have one, they're going to have a bunch. And so when one of the art therapists leaves or retires or whatever happens, the next in line comes right in. So there aren't really art therapy positions available. You really do still have to knock on doors. I know that we've been around for 45 years. However, there's still areas that will benefit from art therapists, and especially the art therapists that are coming out of college now, because there's so many new ideas and there's so many things that we can do with it, And I know when I left school and I was really unhappy with being in the short-term behavioral health center facility, I went to places that dealt with addiction. I went to alternative healing places and holistic healing places and other private practices, and just applied, talk to them. Okay, do you want to expand your business? Okay, do you have an office? Can you supervise me? Blah, blah, blah. And I did find someone eventually in private practice who was willing to take on a pre-licensed person. And I stayed with that company 3 years after I was already licensed. It's only right now, after I've learned everything that I could from that private practice, that I'm out on my own. Okay, so that's definitely a venue, an offer, that you can kind of like find for yourself. But also, some people want to work with prison populations. Some people want to work with hospice. Some people want to work with, troubled teens. Some just want to work with teens in general. And, if you find a place that's all about that, go for that place. Or, go for a facility that already has a, group of people who are willing to, really hear you out, really talk to you, and are interested in what you're doing. Not to say that you can't go into a place that like doesn't really care for you and what you do, because you can hopefully win them over, but sometimes it doesn't. It's just a barrier, So definitely any place that you can think of where therapy has ever been done, you can do therapy there. And I know of like the places in Connecticut that I've talked to or I've heard about that have had art therapists there, but that's not to say that in your area that there isn't some place that would be like, yeah, like let's do this. My only concern is that you might want to say, like, go to some places and say, hey, I want to do an internship, especially if you're in school. But some of these places really exploit interns, and they're never really going to have a space for a paid position because they're going to kind of rely on interns for their positions, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I wish that it didn't happen, but I understand from a business prospect how that could be better than finding someone that you have to pay. But at the same time, I think that people should be paid what they're worth, and that they should get jobs that they really, really enjoy. And if art therapy is something that that you're going to be passionate about and that you're going to enjoy, then go do it. Also, the stipulation to that is that, don't let the people who are powerful in the field get you down, because you're new and you have better ideas, I think, anyway, because I know that the people who have kind of created art therapy aren't always up for the new influx of ideas and the new influx of, hey, we're going to do this now. This is cool. Because they kind of want things to stay the same, and that's just not how this field is going to go. Also, there's not really a consensus of what art therapy is, so you really have that to contend with. And, I feel badly that you kind of have to be up against that in a world that may not understand what you want to do and may not be supportive of what you want to do. If that happens for you, just contact me. We can, have a little bit of a powwow about, this is what you want, this is what you need, those type of things. Because it's unfortunate to feel like no one's on your side in this world, right? So the other question that I get asked is, how did you find out about art therapy? Well, I'm guessing that it was sometime in high school. And I was like, I kind of want to teach art. I kind of want to be a therapist. Wouldn't it be cool if both those things existed? And two things happened. One, I was watching Judging Amy, is an old TV show. It might be on Netflix. And they had a court thing, and they had an art therapist expert come in and talk about people's artwork and a suicide pact between two teens. And one of the teens didn't go through with his side of the suicide pact. And so this art therapist was like, well, look at this art, so you can tell by his artwork that he is feeling so small and depressed, but he doesn't feel like he can really overcome his goals, but he's too weak and afraid to actually commit suicide, all of these things. And then, they showed Juliet's art, and it's, whatever the interpretation was. And I just thought that was so cool. That's not actually what I do. But I thought that was so cool at the time, and I don't have to reinvent the wheel because there is this thing called art therapy. The other thing is that V.S. Ramachandran is a professor at UC San Diego, and I used to visit my family in San Diego, and, you know, inevitably I wouldn't want to go somewhere, I'd have a migraine or whatever it was, and I'd be in the hotel room, and V.S. Ramachandran would come up, and he would just talk about art and cognitive therapy or cognitive psychology, and I just thought that was so amazing. I cannot find any of these videos anymore. But man, and also, like, V.S. Ramachandran, totally an amazing person. If you don't know his research, okay, I'm just gonna gush. Okay, he created the mirror box that helps people to deal with phantom limb syndrome. So he created this way to trick the mind into thinking. Okay, so what happens when you have, I know, totally off topic here. What happens when you have phantom limb syndrome, from my understanding, and what I've been taught, is that you have a mental map in your brain of all of your body, and it's along the corpus callosum. It's along the center of your brain. So let's say that there's a part of your brain that, so there's a part of your body that's now gone, right? So your brain starts to prune back on the brain cells that are connected to that area. So as your brain starts to pull back on these brain cells, like let's say that, you know, someone lost an arm and they lost it from the elbow down, right? So the elbow down, they lost their arm. So they start to feel like their hand is going farther and farther up their arm until, like, it's just a hand at their elbow. But it also feels like their hand is like this, and they're afraid that they, like, this is like pain receptors in their brain fooling them into thinking that their nails are digging into their skin, and it's very painful. So what this light box does is confuse the brain, and you start to do this, and this helps people to feel like they're not doing this anymore. Amazing research, right? Like, amazing. He's figured this out. Like, he knows so much about the brain and how it works and all of this stuff. So, you know, like, I'm sitting here watching, you know, this guy talk about artwork, and he's really entertaining and funny, and he's on the UCSD channel, and I'm visiting, and I just fell in love with art therapy. And, you know, I realized over time that I actually had a book beginning at age 12, because I loved to write about, since I loved to write, that I found this book that says that was about art therapy and journal writing. And so I think that also influenced me in some way. I can't, like, really say there was a direct correlation, but I do know that later on, when I was like, oh my God, an art therapist wrote this, I've loved this book forever. That kind of, like, still cemented this, like, I really feel passionate about art therapy. So I hope that helps you kind of understand what's to expect. And, you know, everyone has their own way that they came around to understanding and finding out about art therapy. All right, I hope this was helpful for you. If you want any, if you're in the Stanford or Fairfield County area, please feel free to call me. If you are outside of the state, I do coaching sessions online, but just know that coaching sessions are not a replacement for therapy, and I can't charge your insurance for them. So, but you're more than welcome to reach out to me and receive it, you know, help if you need it, help and support. All right. Thank you so much.